Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, and welcome to a little bit of Total War Warhammer 2. So sorry that I've been away for so long. There was a bit of a heat wave where I live, and it was very unpleasant. But in any event, yeah, it was actually so hot that I just didn't feel like recording anything. It honestly doesn't take that much heat to screw me over, because I am very weak to that sort of thing. And in any event, though, yeah, we've got ourselves a match of High Elves versus Undead. This is a match that you don't tend to see very often. Well, you do see High Elves versus Undead, but not in the form of the vampire counts. Typically speaking, you see High Elves versus Tomb Kings, because Tomb Kings right now are incredibly powerful. So what we've got right now is they've got Heinrich Kemmler over there. I've got him being hit by the Arcane and Forging. This is going to make it so he can't cast any spells during the initial engagement here. And we're going to be charging straight forward into him with some Swordmasters and stuff like that. And this is sort of typical. He's got a bunch of different skeletons and skeleton warriors and all that other sort of good stuff. And they'll be able to hold up my lines for quite some time there. I've also got a Lore Master of Hoth there, and he's actually dropped down Spirit Leech on Heinrich Kemmler here, and he's going to go down very, very fast. Even if he had taken a Vampire, this would actually be a fairly quick kill here. He did manage to get Krell out, but that's not really going to help him tremendously. Now, he has got the Black Knights charging in here, and they're going to be assisted by the Crypt Ghouls. The Crypt Ghouls are going to be sort of attacking my Spearmen here. Blood Knights do come in for a charge. He's got another unit that's sort of just on the wings there, but it's going to be very difficult for him to actually sort of fight this one. Lore Master is there fighting Heinrich, and Heinrich will get his ass very thoroughly kicked by a Lore Master. He's going to charge in Alariel as well just to help out with this, and I probably popped this heal earlier than I really needed to. These Spearmen are going to end up getting like way, way, way healthier than they really need to be. And Kemmler basically is already dead. Like, this was an incredibly quick kill against their general. I should have had the Keepers of the Flame over there helping against the Blood Knights earlier. In any event, though, Crypt Ghouls break the Spearmen basically with no casualties to themselves. They've got the Black Coach, and that was sort of what was helping them deal the damage there. And then the Black Knights, Blood Knights there, of course, also doing a good job of hitting them on that initial charge. Opponent dragging through his Chariot. I still think that this is a dumb thing that they have this in the game, but it is always going to be the only way that these units are useful. The reason I dislike this is because there's no real counterplay in any particular strict sense against it. It's basically these sort of units rely on their entity mass to sort of get through and defeat units that way. In any event, though, I've got the Everqueen coming in to sort of start beating the ever-loving crap out of it, and she actually does a really good job of that, so that's going to eventually wear it down. The thing is, you can't really bog these units down. Like, you can see it stopping here, and I think that's actually because my opponent has not given any orders there. Over here, we've got my Dragon Princes. I actually got a clear charge against these Blood Knights over here, and, like, the fact that these guys took as little damage as they did from that is kind of gross to me. These guys are just a very, very powerful unit. If I had the Keepers of the Flame, or the Fireborn, actually, they would have done a much, much better job there. Opponent has got a Vampire with the Lore of Shadows over here. You can see, like, he's just sort of going all over the place, and I can't really keep up with him all that effectively. Like, look how fast that stupid thing moves. But, yeah, we are going to be dealing a lot of damage to it. It is crumbling now. Some of the Keepers of the Flame are chopping at it, and they deal a lot of damage per hit there. But yeah, once it gets free, it just sort of just runs around and destroys everything, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's really stupid. But yeah, this is one of those matchups where I think the High Elves have a really big advantage over their opponents. Alariel is one of those ones where I think, like, she's a big assist in that she's very, very strong, and she does have some tools that are really, really good against the undead. But my opponent's been trying to pop a bunch of spells against me, and I've got like 22% magic resistance across my entire line thanks to the Lore Master of Hoth, who's a really great add against these kinds of armies. Like, this Black Coach is doing a lot less damage thanks to that, because it's like melee attack is 24 and it's magic damage. It's gonna pop here. We've got also, of course, like, all the physical resistance, and my opponent's really got to try and rely on some magic damage to a certain degree there. Immortal Will popping for the Vampire with Lore Shadows there, recovering some of its health back up. This is the reason that they're still in the fight, but yeah, they're gonna eventually get killed. I actually found out that, like, these vampires hit really hard. Like, I knew that they were good fighters. I did not think they were as good as they end up being here. Alariel gets in a really good charge against the vampire there, and then, like, just immediately this thing turns around and just beats the ever-loving crap out of Alariel, like, huge amounts of damage. I've still got plenty of healing, though, potentially. I'm trying to retreat these Dragon Princes back out of the fight so that I can potentially re-engage with some spears, because it's way too far away, but unfortunately I get caught and can't retreat the unit properly. So, yeah, I charge in some spears, and you can see how I've just lost a ton of the Dragon Princes from this retreat. I should have just let them fight there. Over here, yeah, this is like a big charge from those Blood Knights into Alarielle, and like she takes a huge pummeling there, but she's not quite dead, and she has a really easy gap to get out of. He backs away anyway, so easy enough for me to get out of that fight. In any event, the Vampire, the Lord of Shadows Vampire of Shadows is trying to fight the Keepers of the Flame. Keepers of the Flame are going to be able to kick their ass. Like, he's trying to cycle charge against them, and they actually are dealing a decent amount of damage every single time they do that, because they're just that kind of unit. Even if you, like, suicide charge a unit into it, and then try and pull back out, and they don't get any attacks back, they still deal a bunch of damage, because that's sort of that flame mechanic there, where they explode. Like, you can see a little bit of exploding happening over there. Alarielle manages to come in and do no damage, because this guy's apparently just barely keeping out of that. But in any event, I get a Spirit Leech off on the Blood Knights and get a charge off against them with the Dragon Princes. This is actually going to drop their health enough that they're going to start crumbling pretty soon. He does charge a bunch of stuff into these spears, but you can see that like he's taking a whole bunch of damage in the process. Even though he's not crumbling or anything like that, he's losing a lot of health gradually over this sort of few minutes there. So we managed to catch up to him with the remnants of my Dragon Princes and start running after him with my entire army. And he can't engage my infantry here, so he's trying to run away so he can get cycle charges in later. But the problem with this is that you can see all of his units crumbling with morale, because I'm allowed to sort of poke and prod at him with these tiny remnants of these Dragon Princes. He kind of has to turn and kill these 6 Dragon Princes and the Everqueen. Unfortunately for him, he loses that one unit, and that's going to cause a chain wreck for the rest of his army. And yeah, that's going to be that. Even if he hadn't died there, though, I would have been able to sort of slowly whittle those units down using the Lore Master with the Spirit Leech. Very, very powerful sort of effect there. He had a lot of kills on those Blood Knights, but not enough to sort of swing the battle there. Dragon Princes did not do very well against Blood Knights. I really, really have to take the Fireborn to beat these guys, I guess, in a cavalry versus cavalry fight. That's kind of fair. It's to be expected. These guys are actually more expensive than Dragon Princes. I probably should have just kept them right beside my lines and waited until he tried to engage me in behind or something like that. The thing about this matchup is it's kind of a stupid matchup. There's literally no reason whatsoever for you to take ranged units as the High Elves in this one, because the Vampire Counts are just going to be able to summon stuff on top of them, and they're a gigantic swarm of units that either are highly resistant to missile weapons or come with such huge numbers that they don't really care if they're getting whittled down with missiles. Crypt Ghouls are kind of an exception to that. Things like the Blood Knights, if I'm firing at them with the really, really expensive archers, like the Sisters of Averlorn, and the Black Coach, of course, if I'm firing at it with the Sisters of Averlorn. But if I'm firing at it with regular archers, they don't actually do that much damage against these kinds of things. So it becomes pretty easy for them to sort of outplay that kind of thing. Swordmasters, of course, pretty useful. They just chop through Graveguard. There's nothing the undead can do about Swordmasters as far as their infantry goes. Graveguard with great weapons get just murdered by these guys. And Keepers of the Flame, actually, like, pretty much impossible for the undead to deal with in terms of actually getting rid of them. Black Coach doesn't do it. Blood Knights don't really do it. Even the cycle charging it, none of those sort of units can really effectively deal with that. Yeah, Crypt Ghouls don't do it. Like, there's nothing in their roster that's very, very effective at it, other than the fact that these guys are really expensive. The way that you would probably do it, in my opinion, is actually have magic and just sort of focus that down on these guys, but that's why I like taking the Lore Master of Oath, this combination. Spearmen, again, completely utter trash. Like, even against undead, they just don't really do that much. 37 kills is kind of a travesty for a 500-point unit in this sort of circumstance, because he was fighting Skeleton Warriors. That's how he had managed to get 37 to begin with. If he was fighting Graveguard, he would have lost. Just period. So it's not really a great unit, but they can help out with the cap fights. 273 kills though on one unit of Swordmasters, 176 on the other. Like, that's kind of grotesque, actually, even if it's skeletons or something like that. This is one of the things like about the undead High Elf matchup. The High Elf matchup is sort of built around these elites, and these guys are sort of built around their ability to sort of swarm over and defeat a large number of relatively low morale units, to be basically able to completely destroy tons and tons of archers and stuff like that, and basically not really care about that kind of thing. But when they come up against units that are designed to easily outperform lower tier units, which is a rare thing. Like, High Elf units, I think, are specialized for killing things that are weaker than them, which I know that sounds weird, but when you think about it, it sort of makes sense. Like the Swordmasters, the Phoenix Guard, anything like that, when they're in a battle against something that they're roughly equal against, they don't necessarily do too well. But when they're a little bit better than the other unit, they keep their bonuses to their stats for a little bit longer, and because of this, they end up having that sort of snowball effect where they do way, way better. And if there's up against a bunch of weak units and they crush a unit completely without any casualties of their own, if they don't take any damage, then they don't lose any of their martial prowess. They can keep crushing units over and over and over and over again. Whereas with something like great swords or something like that, they'd get worn down. With a lot of other units, they sort of get worn down a little bit more. And don't trade sort of as sufficiently. But really, it's just the high health elites that seem to do that. The other sort of bonuses, like 22% magic resistance as a large aura, 12% physical resistance, as well as like lots and lots of healing, that sort of combination there. Plus magical attacks, like all those sort of things make it so it's really hard to play against the high elves as the undead. So anyway, hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, hope to see you guys all next time.